Hello, I am Ruben Mendes, and today I'm going to be doing an informative assignment on Switzerland. In the middle of Europe lies a nation that some claim to be straight out of a fairy tale, a nation whose wealth has managed to create wondrous inventions and has a strong military. And yet, despite this, they have managed to maintain a neutral status for so long. This nation may sound too good to be true, and even fictitious at times. But in the middle of Europe, you may find the nation of Switzerland, a nation where all of these statements comes true. Switzerland is a nation with a rich history, ranging from the best fighters, mostly used as mercenaries, to a nation of neutrality. From its rich culture that is deeply rooted in German, to the amazing inventions that the Swiss have made, from delicacies to the inventions you may use in your normal day today. Let's begin with Switzerland's history. The history of Switzerland extends to as old as the Alps themselves, inside of the nation. Located in the middle of Europe, surrounded by great nations such as Italy, Germany, and France, and surrounded by the mountainous region known as the Alps. Well, that does a lot for a nation's history. Since the Alps were a natural border and a major obstacle for invaders from other nations, the Holy Roman Empire deemed them Reichsfrei, a sort of status given to locations that are either too hard to get to and that these nations can be independent. This gave the early Swiss an independence like no other nation. For many years, many wanted this land, but the Swiss were not going to give up so easily, especially the independence they had. Different nations came to try and take the land, but the Swiss were victorious all the time. The old Swiss Confederacy grew and grew over time, with more land and men, as they kept fighting off opposition. They were so skilled in battle that over time other nations started to hire Swiss mercenaries for their exceptional skill in battle. This was a major business for early Switzerland, and for most of history, as it seems. Because of their mercenary industry, there seemed to be an agreement between these early nations to basically leave Switzerland alone, so that no other country has too much power. Nobody wanted to fight a Switzerland army. So they decided to make Switzerland an independent but neutral nation, one whose army is not on either side, but one you can simply buy. This neutrality became part of Switzerland's identity over time, not choosing sides in either conflicts, but taking precautions just in case. They rigged their railroads and bridges into bombs, which they made tank traps, and made almost all citizens in the country have bomb-proof shelters in their homes. This neutrality has been both and good and controversial for Switzerland, as their neutrality made them stay away from both world wars, some stating that by being neutral, they were neither against nor in opposition of what goes on around them. But I believe that this neutrality is crucial for Switzerland, and is best to avoid conflict when necessary. They aren't part of NATO, and just as recently, they joined the UN. So this could be a sign of perhaps changing times. Now that I have discussed the history of the Swiss, let's discuss their culture. Switzerland being located surrounded by other great nations and the Great Alps has of course managed to create an identity of its own. The Swiss culture has always been integrated with the environment the Alps has made around them. As they had to move their livestock around year-round to accommodate the seasons. This in turn made the Swiss lives based off these cycles, where they lived, what they did, and how they lived were determined by these cycles. This made Swiss culture very unique, as it was distinct as diversity was a major part of it. For example, the main language of Switzerland is German, yet most German speakers outside of Switzerland will have a hard time understanding Swiss German. And this isn't the only language, as there is also French and Italian. But Switzerland does have its own unique identity as well. Switzerland has many religions inside of it, but the main ones are Roman Catholic and Protestants. But what about the fun side of Swiss culture? Alphorns and Jodeli are what many think of when you mention Switzerland. And although they are pretty good instruments and a pretty good sounding vocals, excuse me, you will most likely hear modern music that you probably listen to right now instead of the usual Alphorns or, of course, yodeling. or the Landler, of sort of a Swiss folk dance which resembles the waltz. And if you're wondering about a cuisine, well, the national dish is fondue Neuchâtelois, which is melted cheese and wine, which are used to dip bread cubes in. Speaking of things made in Switzerland, I will now discuss the rich diversity of Swiss-made things. The Swiss have brought to the world many things that they have invented or have made a new twist onto, which they introduced to the rest of the world. Let's discuss what they gave us. Firstly, of course, we must discuss the Swiss cheese. Now, there isn't one true Swiss cheese, but the one many picture when they picture Swiss cheese is the one with the holes. This yellow hard cheese has a flavor that can be described as sweet, mild, and sometimes nutty. A delicious cheese, nevertheless. We should also discuss the Swiss chocolates, and of course, we can't discuss Swiss chocolates without mentioning Toblerone, which you can buy almost anywhere. But the Swiss also made the white chocolate, showing the world that for every good you do, there is also a bad. But it's not just food that the Swiss have given us. The Swiss flag consists of red background with a white cross, which is a big plus, because they created the Red Cross organization. Yes, that Red Cross. They gave us the Swiss Army knife, a multi-use tool that dads all over the world have or wish they had. Besides that, Velcro, the computer mouse, and the World Wide Web we owe to the Swiss. But the most important discovery, in my opinion, is the discovery of nucleic acid, or DNA, by Friedrich Michel, who, without his discovery, we would know very little about ourselves and, of course, modern biology and medicine. Switzerland is a nation whose history has made them who's made them have a neutral status throughout their history and probably into the further future. A nation whose natural border, the Alps, has made it a strong nation that solely made their culture and identity based on it. Their culture is so rich and diverse, and the gifts that they share with the world are known worldwide. Switzerland is a nation with a rich history, ranging from the best fighters, mostly used as mercenaries, to a nation now known as one of neutral status. From its rich culture that is deeply rooted in diversity, to the amazing inventions that the Swiss have made, from delicacies to the inventions you use today, such as the World Wide Web. In the middle of Europe lies a nation, one whose history went from sought-after mercenaries to a neutral nation, one whose culture and environment made it so diverse, yet so unique, almost as it came out of a fairy tale, and one whose discoveries we cannot live without, and that nation is Switzerland. So, as they say over there, auf Wiedersehen, and thank you for your time. Damn.